Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another League 2 roundup, and finally we have a full list of games to go through, so we haven't got to talk about postponements and I don't want to delay too much because it's been a while since we've had a full League 2 roundup with a full run of fixtures. So without further ado, let's just dive straight into the action. I hope you guys are keeping well, by the way, and let me know below if you've managed to get to a game this weekend. I know there was no postponements, but it was still a pretty chilly weekend. And the action actually started on Friday night when Harrogate played Cheltenham Town. Harrogate ran out 2-0 winners with 2 own goals, proving to be the difference there. And as we sort of scroll down to the bottom half of the table, both of these sides in the bottom half, this is a massive result for Harrogate. As you see there, player of the match, James Belshaw, once again, been their best player this season. I think he's a standout goalkeeper for them, a fantastic shot stopper, kept a clean sheet, kept them kind of in it, I suppose, and a little bit of fortune, but that's what you need when you're down near the bottom. It opens up an 8-point gap now for them. And so, whilst I don't think they're out of the woods just yet, and I do think that the two sides that are down there could go on runs, the bigger this gap and the more extended period they can do to kind of, make that the need for a run ever so slightly more so, the bigger they can build that gap, the better for Harrogate. And they've actually won quite a few games this season. They've actually, lost more than any other side outside of the bottom two, but it's those wins that I think are so important. Obviously, it's kind of obvious, but a win is 3 points. It takes you the same amount of time as 3 draws. So the fact that Harrogate have got that ability in the locker, 8 wins, it's more than any other team in the bottom half other than Gillingham and other than Cheltenham, who they just beat. For Cheltenham, disappointing. You look at the team, they've got a very young side. I do like a lot of what they've done. I mean, you look at that front four there, all very, very, inexperienced young players. Jordan Thomas, of course, Ethan Archer, Arkell Jude Boyd. So very, very exciting to see them, and the way they've recruited as well, all from non-league. So very exciting what they're doing. But for me, Cheltenham's season is kind of over already. And so, whilst I don't want to be too downbeat on them and say, your season's over, I don't think they're going to get in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to go down. So I do think almost they're building towards next season. And with this young crop of players they've got, it's not a devastating result. We can say that. Carlisle, they played Bradford. On Saturday, the early kick-off. And once again, we see man of the match, Alex Patterson. Just to mention him, I mentioned a while ago that Andy Cook, his injury is out for the season. But a man that's going to step up in his absence to get the goals is Alex Patterson, a goal-scoring midfielder while he was at Harrogate, who we've just spoken about. But he actually got an assist in this game, a 1-0 win. Contrast and end of the table. Bradford still on the hunt for those playoff positions. And as you'll see with the table, what a massive change one game makes. I mean, you'll notice they're 1 point behind Salford, who were in the automatic promotion places before this round of games. And Carlisle, of course, still rooted to the bottom of the table, unable to really make a massive dent in Bradford. I will say that Tommy Lee and Michael Mellon being on the bench, huge positives for Bradford, and I think they've got the best is yet to come for them. So to go away from home and get a 1-0 win, very, very good result for them. Carlisle, they're now 7 points from safety. The gaps open up all the time. Yes, okay, this is a game where perhaps you don't expect too much from it, but we are starting to see this more as a Mike Williamson squad, and if he can't get the results, then questions do have to be asked. Callum Whelan, Stephen Wern, Joe Hugel, Will Patching, Kevin Scott came off the bench. You've got loads of his own signings that he's added in January, and yet the results aren't improving. So time will tell for Carlisle, but not a good result for them. And we spoke about Gillingham having the most wins in the bottom half. Well, it was a loss that they had on the weekend. Another 1-0 away win for the travelling side. This time Doncaster. Again, the team that are kind of up there in the table, beating this team away from home who are struggling. Teddy Sharman-Lowe getting the football man of the match. And I normally don't highlight these because it's all very subjective using player ratings, but good to see the young loanee doing well there. Didn't have a great season last year at Bromley, didn't really play. So the fact that he's been number one for Doncaster, a good side in this division, is a positive. And for Gillingham, I guess it's a little bit of a step in the right direction in terms of they didn't, weren't heavily beaten. But again, it's that 1-0 loss, and John Coleman's come in. It's going to take a little bit of time for them to turn things round. But it's really tough to assess Gillingham right now. And a little bit like Cheltenham, I do think their season's over. I think that they're not going to go down. They've got too much quality, and there's too many sides in the league that are worse than them. Is John Coleman going to turn them round overnight? I'm not necessarily convinced that he will. Is he the man that is going to take them forwards? I mean, he's only on a contract at the end of the season, so it's difficult to say that as well. So all in all, I really do just think that Gillingham's season is kind of wrapped up. But for Doncaster, can they put a consistent run together? It's been really difficult to say that they will, but a win, it puts them up into 6th, and they're a good side. I mean, they're only 3 points off second. They've got loads of quality in their team, but have they got the consistency? That remains to be seen. A side, though, that is up there at the moment, a really good win, another away clean sheet. It's Notts County against Accrington. Really good result for the Magpies. George Abbott with an absolute screamer. If you haven't seen that goal, go and find it. It is absolutely fantastic. Accrington, they're down there. Probably didn't expect too much from this game. I did think it'd be a comfortable win for Notts, to be honest with you, and probably keep a clean sheet as well. There's just not enough threat in the Accrington side. Even signing Charlie Catton from Chester, he's another National League North forward. I do really like him, do really rate him, but it's another player they're asking to make that 2-division jump into a struggling side that don't really create a lot. It's a big ask for a forward. But for Notts, David McGoldrick stepping up, Jatta with an assist from a header, but David McGoldrick really staking his claim to be top goal scorer this season. Now on 12 for the campaign. He equals Alassana Jatta's total. Okay, he's played a couple more games, but it's really impressive that Notts have got 2 forwards who can get the goals. George Abbott and Matty Palmer as a midfield too is as solid as you can get as well. I still think, and obviously they've brought in the young lad, is it Zach Johnson, I believe, for the right centre-back role, and I think he may be a more natural fit than Rod McDonald, but didn't really matter in the end. And really good result for Notts, for us, to be up into 5th place in the league. And promotion could be on the horizon, certainly moving in the right direction. It's very, very tight in there. But for Accrington, it's not the worst day at the office, because probably to be expected, this is the kind of team that do play them off the park at home even. But of the teams that are down there, could they be one of the ones to drop? You look at them, and Tranmere potentially is getting dragged into it. Maybe even Newport, as Harrogate obviously got that big win, and Swindon, as we'll talk about, continue to build momentum. Talking to Tranmere, they failed to score as well. They lost away to Wimbledon, who are now in 4th, and a team that I really, really like. I'm planning on potentially doing an updated predictions video for my League 2. If you haven't seen me react to predictions, that's on the channel as well from the start of the season. And I do have to give a little mini spoiler away, I guess, and Wimbledon will be right up there in my updated predictions. I think they're fantastic. Of course, they're 4th with games in hand as well, but it's the manner of those performances. They're so hard to break down. They're so well drilled. They've got a very, very strong side. A little bit of rotation in the back 3, but still, they've got goals in there. Matty Stevens, if they can hold on to him, they're going to be fine. They've got options. I really like the way that they play. Hence, I did a tactical breakdown on them on the channel. And I think that they're a really, really strong side. Tranmere, I think they're pretty poor. I think 2-0 away actually isn't an awful result for them, because the way they've been at the moment, it's not been good for them. Yes, they got a win over Carlisle, and that win over Carlisle, and even that win over Harrogate, you look at their run there, those results may prove to be what keeps them in the Football League, especially that win over Carlisle. It could come down to that. So that could be looked upon as a massive, significant result. But for Tranmere, I just don't see where they're going to get the points from. And they're a really worrying side, and 18 goals this season. I mean, it's not good enough, is it? It's pretty terrible. But Wimbledon, comfortable win for them. And we get into another game where one side kept a clean sheet. A lot of games this weekend that happened, and it was Bromley Colchester. And I have to say, I was surprised by this. It was an early lead through Aurora Edwards, and they didn't relinquish it. Really positive result for Colchester, who, if we're going to be honest, had been on a bit of a slide. I was grouping them in the category with Cheltenham, with Gillingham, where I think their season's kind of done already. I don't think they're going to go on to get promotion, and I don't think they're going to get relegated either. That was based since the turn of the year. Since the turn of the year, they've been poor. Before that, they went on a really good unbeaten run. Could this be the game that kind of spurs them back into contention? They've got some very good fixtures coming up. If you take out the Port Vale game there, and maybe even Walsall, if you look all the way to just past Valentine's Day, they play Carlisle, who are obviously bottom. They play Tranmere, who are right down there. They play Morecambe, who are right down there, and Harrogate as well. So really good chance for them to pick up some points. I think this is a really important win for them. For Bromley, they will feel they've got an outside chance at the playoffs. I'm going to be honest. I think this is a game between two sides who I do think will be in League Two next season. And that means they're not going to fall through the trapdoor, but it also means I don't think they're going to go and get promotion either. So not too much to say on that one because it's a good result for Colchester. They are probably one of the sides that are best placed to go on a run. Can they do it? I don't know, but I don't think either will be up there come the end of the season, or at least in that top 7. Two sides that have got a chance of doing that is Grimsby and Chesterfield. And this is not a drill. Grimsby have drawn a game, finally, their second draw of the season. 26 games in, they've only drawn 2. It's absolutely incredible. I believe the record is 4 for fewest, so they could have broken it. I mean, I'm not sure they will now they actually drew this one. This felt like a game that definitely would go either way, but hasn't quite happened in this one, as Chesterfield, they dropped points away from home. Chesterfield, a really peculiar one for me because they still obviously have got a few injury issues, and getting players back and adding players in. Ben Peppel up front is a good addition. They did well at Southend. Tom Naylor's still been used in defence. Those kind of things for Chesterfield where you maybe think, are they going to turn it around? Have they turned it around? And they just don't. That doesn't quite happen for them. But, you know, they've got the quality in their squad, I think, to, in the long run, get results. What I'm trying to get at really is possibly this is a slightly disappointing result against a Grimsby side who have lost 12 games this season. And my thoughts on Grimsby are kind of known now for regular viewers. And I do like Grimsby. I do like what they're doing. Svan Forsen getting another goal contribution. Good to see Jordan Davies in and amongst the goals as well. Very talented footballer. But I do think that they shouldn't be in the position they're in. And so for Chesterfield to not pick up all 3 points, perhaps a slight disappointment, but I guess a little bit of a process of transitioning from the injury crisis to a little bit more normality for them, and maybe they'll start to get going. But a draw, a rare draw as well. Most of the games have been pretty decisive this weekend. In fact, the only draw of the weekend, and it was Grimsby. How crazy is that? The only draw of the weekend was Grimsby, which, considering they'd only drawn 1 game all season before that, you would not have put your money on that. One game I thought might have ended in a draw was Crewe away at Morecambe. If we just quickly look at Crewe's last game, it was away at Swindon, a team who are in a similar-ish position to Morecambe. And despite the fact that Crewe are second in the table, having a very, very good campaign, I just thought maybe Morecambe would have enough to see through a 0-0 draw, which is what I went for. But it was a 1-0 win for Crewe. Going to be the story of Morecambe's season, I think. Being in games where it's tight, but they haven't got the firepower or the creativity, I think, actually, in their side to really go on and stay up. It's going to be really tough for them. Really tough for them this season to stay up, to be honest with you. Crewe continue to impress and to surprise. How long can they keep this up? It's really tough to say because you look at the side there. Mickey Demetrio, of course, at the heart of defence, has got loads of experience, and maybe Charlotte Tracy leading the line, but across the board, it's quite an inexperienced side, relying on a lot of young players, either on loan, like Philip Marshall, or players from within their own academy, Joel Taberner, Matis Holacek, those kind of players. So it's difficult to say, but then again, 12 months ago, they got to the playoff, well, a little bit less than 12 months ago, actually, but last season they got to the playoff final, and they were in a similar position 12 months ago where they did fall away ultimately and just held on. And then snuck into the playoff final against the odds, against Doncaster, etc. So I guess they've got the experiences of last season. And so if they did make the playoffs, maybe they're a side that you would probably fancy because of that experience that they've got. And maybe you fancy them to get all the way and finish in the top 3 this season. Either way, it's a good result for them away from home. Morecambe, it's a cliche that's happening this season, but it's not an easy place to go. But if we look at the table there, Crewe, they're not going to chase down Walsall, but they've opened up a 3-point gap to 4th. It's not a lot, but it's something for them to hold on to for now. Talking of teams in the top 3, we've got Port Vale. They just about got past Newport. Newport were leading in that game twice. They took the lead pegged back, took the lead again, but Port Vale turned it round and kept this pretty good run of form going. I say pretty good run of form as a revival of form. They finally got the win they needed. They hadn't won for a long, long time. A 1-0 win away at Morecambe. There's a surprise. If you just skipped this bit, we just spoke about Morecambe losing at home 1-0 fairly regularly. And yeah, I mean, it was a very, very important result for Port Vale to get some momentum regained. It does speak volumes of how well they did at the start of the season to look at this run from the 25th of November all the way to the 1st of Jan, or all the way to the 4th of Jan, to where they got their win, to say they're still in the top three, despite the fact they didn't win a single game between those in that period. So it's a testament to them. Newport at the other end of the table, I've said it all season, I do think they're going to get dragged into it. I had them down there at the start. They had a really good, before the season started, they had a really good start to the season. And I do just genuinely think that they haven't got the quality in their side. I look at their team and I think they've got some good players, some good young players, but I don't think it really draws to me as a side that I think, they've got the minerals to be a really good side this season. And maybe that's harsh, but I think they've got a lot of young players, but maybe not the balance and mix that you need. And all those young players, the players you want in a relegation scrap? You know, your likes of Accrington have actually got some experience in their side. Even Morecambe have. Have Newport got that? Have they got a coach that's been there and done it? Those are question marks that will remain over them for me. You know, and that's why I think they're still a candidate to go down. And yeah, I mean, they've lost 12 games this season. It's not great. And despite the fact they took the lead on 2 occasions, they couldn't get a single point from it. We move on to Salford. How quickly things can change. Salford, such an interesting one. Their run of games, and if you've watched the video on the channel, we did a tactical breakdown of them, and we actually spoke about how teams could play through them, and basically how Man City could play through them, because a team that's got quality can play through their man-for-man press. If we go all the way back to the 13th of November, they went on an 9-game run where they conceded 1 goal and kept 8 clean sheets. Then in the next game, they conceded 8 goals in 1 game. And that, to me, was a question mark. Of course, it's Man City, so you can't take too much from it. But has that shattered the confidence a little bit? Because had they lost to City 3, had they lost to City 4, had they lost to City 5-0, maybe then you understand it as a Premier League team. But 8 goals to concede for any team, a professional team, is very damaging. 8 is kind of like horror scoreline. And I do wonder, has that damaged what felt like a real confidence in penetrability about them? You know, hadn't conceded for so long, so many clean sheets. Well, the clean sheet record has gone in the league too. Pete Wild's Fleetwood took a very, very early lead, and ended up seeing it through. And finally, we see the new manager bounce for Pete Wild. I'm going to be repeating myself, but I'm going to group them in with your Cheltenhams, with your Colchesters, maybe as a side that I think their season is probably already done, is in that they're building for next season. Pete Wild, this is a season for Pete Wild to go and assess the group, judge the group, and start to implement his style ready for next season. They've got some talent in this side, and I think perhaps them and Colchester are the best place to go on that run. Phoenix Patterson, Brendan Moredu, you know, even Coughlin and Graydon up front. I've spoken about them before on the channel on a tactical breakdown. You know, they have got some talent in this side, but I don't think they're going to go on. They could go on a run. Pete Wild is capable of doing that as a manager. I don't think there's too many teams above them for them to do that. But I do think if any side you can look at them to go on a run, it would be them. Salford down to 7th. Interested to see how they bounce back from this. It's only 1 game. It is only 1 game, but it's interesting. Well, there's 2 if you include the Man City one. But interested to see how they bounce back from this. They've gone from being in the automatics, and you could have a scenario where after the next game they could be out of the playoffs. That's how close things are, how exciting League 2 is this season. Swindon against Barrow, 17th against 18th. The final game of Stephen Clemence's reign as Barrow manager. It's a second job he's gone in, and ultimately lost his job after taking over a side kind of similar to Gillingham, who he managed before last season. Taking over a side who play a certain way and want to transition to a more attractive brand of football. And he's a coach who is known to be able to do that. But as a head coach, it hasn't worked out for him, and he's lost his job. Is it the correct decision? Well, let's look at Barrow's form and maybe use that as an assessment. if we just go over to the table and look at Barrow, they lost to Swindon, who are below them. They lost to Harrogate, who are below them. They drew Tranmere, who are below them. So their run of form has been very poor, very, very poor, and dropping points against sides that are in and around them. I also, a little bit like Newport we spoke about, Barrow were a team I had pretty low in my predictions, and they had a really good start. And again, a little bit like Newport, kind of expected them to level out at some point, and that point has been reached and now surpassed, where they've leveled out and now they're being dragged back down to the level where I think they're at, genuinely as a squad. And I think Pete Wild have done really well there. They lost some key personnel, Pete Wild, and some couple of key players as well. So, and wasn't too inspired by the transfer dealings, and they've had a better season perhaps than I expected, at least the start of it, but they're now coming back down to reality. And it'd be interesting to see, at the time of recording, they haven't made an appointment yet, so it'd be interesting to see who they go in and appoint. The last time I said that at the time of recording, it was about Swindon, who went and beat them, because I remember at the time I recorded and had to re-record. Actually, it was Gillingham, but I remember as well Swindon as well. Very, very quick decision on their manager. Barrow haven't done that. Swindon made that quick decision, and to be fair to Swindon, it's paying off. It's proving to be a good choice. George Cox with another goal contribution. Now got 5 from left wing back. I told you he's way above this level. Way above this level. Kilkenny's a player I like as well. And Harry Smith up front. You can't overlook this man. Unplayable on his day. Yeah, Swindon, very, very impressed with them and Ian Holloway. Their run of form is a little bit patchy. It's not a consistent win or anything like that. But for a team that are trying to stave off the drop, it's pretty good. It's good enough, that's for sure. And I do think they'll rise kind of out of trouble pretty quickly. I think Barrow are more likely to get dragged down, as evidenced by this result. But I think Swindon are better than the 6 teams currently below them. And I'm not saying they're out of danger just yet, because it could turn quickly. But I think if you look at the run of games, Harrogate and Carlisle in the next 5, Tranmere as well, and Newport. I mean, wow, what a run of games. If from those 5 games they can get even 9 points, they'll be absolutely out. And I think they're well capable of that, by the way. They'll be out of danger. I think we're looking at a scenario with Swindon where not too long and they'll be out of it. So they, again, had them predicted higher, and they're coming more towards their level, because a lot of the predictions as well, and I know in the last video I reacted to, I didn't actually say this in that video, a lot of predictions are based on squad quality. Because a lot of new managers come in, you don't know how they're going to do, but squad quality you can assess. And I think Swindon's squad, the quality of the individual players overall is better than where they are in the table right now. And maybe Barrow is the opposite direction. So that is becoming reflective of that. We finish with the game of the weekend, not only in terms of the actual result, 4-2, 6 goals, fantastic, but actually the magnitude of the game as well. MK Dons, who are already, I guess, losing their patience a little bit, Scotland, which is interesting. But big spenders this January. Obviously, don't know fees at all. But Jay Williams from League One and Dan Crowley from, I guess, promotion rivals Notts County in League Two. They won't have come cheap in January. Let's be honest, they won't have been cheap deals. So it's definitely spending the money. And you look at that team there: Crowley, Gilby, Williams, and Kelly, Aaron Nemain as well. Sam Sherring, Nico Lawrence, Luke Offord. Lots of big names for the level and players that would have cost decent amounts. They've spent, I don't know. Again, I don't know what money. That's all I'm speculating there. But the point I'm making is that you kind of got a side in Walsall who are top of the league running away with it against a side who have got a very, very good team. And that's why it felt like game of the weekend going into it, especially when MK Dons took the lead early on. You thought, okay, Walsall have lost Nathan Lowe. Let's see how they respond and react. And if you watch the Walsall video on the channel, Tactical Breakdown, you'll notice I spoke about Albert Adoma and how they've used him really well as an impact sub, but his minutes have been limited. Well, they've thrown that out the window. They started him in this game. He played the full game and he scored. So no Nathan Lowe, no problem for Walsall. 4 goals for them. Once again, came back from behind against a good side. Kind of went with the momentum, bided their time, and came on strong in the second half. And if anyone's a fight fan out there, a little bit like Merab Devashvili against Imano Magomedov in terms of you just know that Walsall are always going to come on strong. They've got that incredible levels of fitness. Their cardio is insane, to use that kind of UFC term. But to take it back to the football, MK Dons, let's talk about them generally. The run has been poor. It's been really poor, and slightly worrying, if anything, because from their perspective, because they're now 8 points out of the playoffs. Now, I'm not saying that they won't make the playoffs. I think they could, and they could still win them, because Scotland won them last season at the expense of MK Dons. But that's a pretty poor run of form, and their fans are getting a little bit tired with that, I guess. I think the Gillingham and the Newport results are particularly poor, because if you actually look at the calibre of the sides they've played in the last five, they've played Notts County, who are fifth, Crewe, who are second, they played Chesterfield, who are 10th, they played Salford, who are 7th, and they played Walsall, who are top. And actually, all of those teams are top 7 teams, really. Chesterfield out of the playoffs at the moment, but all, Salford, they played while they're in the top 3. Notts as well can be up there. So they've played some very, very tough opposition. So maybe that explains it a little bit. And I think that there's no worry for Scotland in losing his job, of course. He's been well backed. And I do think he's a fantastic coach, a fantastic manager, and they will turn it round. And they've lost away at top of the league. So it's not like it's a terrible situation or anything like that. But I think the run of form maybe set alarm bells off a little bit. But if they can turn it round, they've got some tough games coming up, to be fair. Wimbledon and Doncaster in there. But overall, they need to put a little bit of a run together. But they've certainly got the quality, and they've added 2 players, Jay Williams and Dan Crowley, who I think are 2 of the best in the league, potentially the best in their position in terms of a midfielder who can win the ball back, bit of a destroyer. You probably have to look at the Walsall midfield to rival Jay Williams, and then Dan Crowley in the 10. Who's better than him in the league? You're hard pressed to find that many. So they've got the squad, but Walsall, just finally to end on them and on a positive note, wow, so impressed once again, dealing with the loss of Nathan Lowe, back recalled by Stoke, and no signs of slowing down. I've heard, obviously, rumours online they're in negotiations for Draper up front, but they don't seem in a rush, and I don't think they need to rush. 15 points clear. They're in League One next season. They will be a League One team next season. They'll win the league. I'm pretty sure of that, because the gap it's still massive. It's still 12 to second, so they'll win the league. But I mean, I can't see 3 teams catching them. Can 1 team catch them? Probably not. But can 3? It would be very, very, very unlikely. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of this week's League 2 roundup. Please do let me know if you have enjoyed it. It would mean a lot if you could like the video and leave a comment. Let me know what game you watched or what you think of the videos, if you're enjoying the roundups. If you could subscribe, it'd be massively appreciated. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. We can do loads with the channel once we reach 1,000. So if you could, that'd be massively, massively appreciated, because, as I say, the goal is to make more content and bring more content to you guys. Reaching 1,000 subscribers would go a long way in helping me do that. So if you could, it is free to do. So if you could hit the subscribe button, that'd be massively appreciated. And thank you for all the support. It's been amazing. Love making the videos and love interacting with you guys on here as well, and seeing all your comments and all the support. It does mean a lot and keeps these videos coming. And I hope you guys have enjoyed watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.